Before I introduce what animation is, let me introduce myself.
My name is Azark.
I've been animating for 3 years, and I've been in a continuous process to keep learning and improving my skills. I am a 2D animator. That means that I animate drawings, like this. I do not animate 3D animation that can look like this. I've animated quite a bit. Just look at this work.
But look at this intro that I animated.
Although I will be teaching you some basics about 2D animation, the principles that I will teach you apply to all the other types of animation. So to understand animation, we first have to understand what motion is. Motion is basically the illusion of movement created by changes in what we see. So here to here, that is a change in motion. Your eyes automatically fill in the blanks to assume that that is motion. Animations move at a certain frame rate per second. This constitutes how fast they're moving, how many drawings are shown for each second. Right now I have this in 12 frames per second. We see things in 30 to 60 frames per second. That means we see up to 60 different frames or drawings or pictures every moment, and that creates our experience and the illusion of movement. But this motion looks very rough. We can make this motion look a lot more realistic and a lot more smooth by applying the principles of animation that I will show you today. So the first principle I will go into is called easing in and easing out. Easing is where you add frames to slow down certain parts and make other parts faster. Look, for instance, at this ball. Its motion looks very mechanical. Now let's contrast that with using easing. This is just a representation of speeding up and slowing down. If the frames are closer together, they will appear to be moving slow. If they are further apart, they will appear to be moving fast. Most things take some time to speed up, and that is why the ball with easing looks a lot more realistic than just the ball moving in a linear way. Next, we will use these animation principles and a couple others that I will show you along the way to create a simple bouncing ball animation. The bouncing ball exercise is one of the most basic and yet one of the most important exercises for learning animation. Once you learn how to animate a bouncing ball and apply the principles to it, you can apply them to much more complex things and drawings. And this will give you a lot more creative freedom. Before we dive into, let me introduce to you a couple softwares that you can use. Flip-a-Clip, which is free, is a very solid choice if you're animating on a phone or a tablet. If you're animating on a laptop, I suggest Macromedia Flash 8 or a little bit more advanced OpenTunes. Before we start our animation, let's just picture where the ball is going to go. Let's say the ball starts right here. Let's say it's gonna move this way. Imagine we just threw it in this way. So it's gonna have some force but also it's going to be acted on by gravity. So when things have multiple forces being acted upon them, like gravity, or if they're given force by something else, they will move in arcs. This is another very important principle of animation, and especially for this animation. It'll likely follow a curve like this, and then it won't just stop there. It'll keep going, because it still has some energy. So it'll bounce up again. This will be the basis for our animation. Look at this video right here. See how it's pausing at the top. It's moving slower at the top of the arc, and then it speeds up. The fastest point is right here, and this is where we can apply another principle of animation: squash and stretch. Squash and stretch is basically just where you'll stretch the object if it's going fast, or you'll squash it if it's hitting something, because the ground propels force back, right? More frames at the top because it's going the slowest there. So now, let's actually animate it. We have a plan, we have an understanding of how this is moving. I'm going to do this in a quick little time lapse, and I'll update you as I go along. So again, the ball comes in with force. It reaches the top, the apex, and gradually speeding up. Try to maintain the same volume throughout your animation, because it'll look more consistent and more real. There you have it. Simple bouncing ball animation. If you want to go even simpler to start, you can just practice with the ball going up and down. Here is your character, Jeb. What can we do to get Jeb to jump? Let's substitute him for the bouncing ball.
In conclusion, these principles, such as easing, squash and stretch, arcs, and anticipation, are very useful in turning Jeb from this into this. Animation is not for everyone. It requires a lot of patience and commitment, but I will say that delayed gratification is totally worth it. I hope the next time you watch an animated film, you understand how much goes into it. Too much of animation goes underappreciated, and I wish you luck with your animation.